Well, guys, it looks like today was the day that all of the champagne dreams and caviar wishes in the scavenger mine died. But I actually think that's okay. If the scavenger mine was never the source of your champagne dreams and caviar wishes, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. All right. All right. Thank you for joining, guys. Thank you for joining. Let's see who's here. Eric Williams. Thank you. B1ADA. Now I know what I'm actually supposed to say. B1ADA. I don't know how to change the settings, but I'll look into it. I'll look into it. I know how to change the settings, but I don't know where that setting would be, but I'll look into it. Daniil, thanks for joining. How sparse? Oh man, it's pretty sparse. We're going to talk about it. Hilldog, I'm not sure if you're here, but if you're sleeping, I'm glad to hear you're sleeping. I think probably a lot of people in crypto need more sleep right about now. Thank you for the smashed like. Neo Chad, hey, you can be fifth anytime. I'll take fifth through 10,000th. So I'm good with all of it. Okay. Neo Chad said, real quick, if your mining isn't showing what you earned after the first day, keep hitting F5. Didn't show till I did that a few times. I saw other people report that as well. Neo Chad says, I got 85, 79, and 89 on my 3 setups. Yep, that's my experience with X Spaces. That's my experience. Absolutely. Cardano for the win. Hello. Hello. Thanks for joining. J. Marie, good to see you. The Flying Hambone says if ADA hits $2 within the next 4 months, I won't have to sell the house. Don't tell my wife. Man, I think it feels that way for all of us. I think it feels that way to everybody. Midnight mining on Glacier Drop. Hey, Taz, thanks for joining. Because who needs sleep when you can earn digital frostbite instead? It also feels that way. That is also exactly how it feels. So far, I'm at your estimated claim 63. Okay. Okay. Flying Hambone started at challenge 7. Okay, that makes sense. Truckdono, good to see you. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Of course. Of course. Of course. Of course I can. Everybody will whisper to your wife if you want. Also probably true. Also probably true. 356,000 miners is my math right. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Otis Frityov, what's up? Let's go. Let's go. 89, yep. I'm afraid we were all filthy scavengers over the last couple of days. Most of us, probably the vast majority of us. Many of us were, though. Many of us were. Emilio, let's go. Let's go. I have never heard this song. I've never heard it. I will check this out, though. Menthol by Gene Dawson. Never heard it. They were touring with Linkin Park, which is when I first saw them. Interesting. Okay, I'll check it out. I'll gladly check it out. Mining night. Taz says mining night on Glitch Drop. My coffee's gone. My eyes are twitching, and I think my GPU just whispered, "Help me." Says I net 84. Happy mining, everybody. Yes, yes. Likewise. Lace Wallet really did make it easier for me to participate in the scavenger mine. Okay, that's good. That's good. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear when glad to hear this. People are having a good experience, or were having a good experience until they saw their yields. Great mining time, everyone. Marco, good to see you. Good to see you. Let's go somewhere with fewer miners. Yep, this is always the problem. This is always the problem with proof of work. This is the problem. Let's go, Gary. Let's go. 86 night yesterday. Okay, sounds good. Hello. Truck Donald says laugh out loud. Jose Cano. Hello. Hello. I would love it. I won't kick it out of bed at that price. Just about to take a shower after a hard day mining. Great to be here. Yep, I think that's all of us. Hopefully we're all still earning. I think we're all learning. That part is for sure. Rulo 13, thank you for joining. Cardano Universe, thanks for joining. Hola. Okay, so we learned some things about the scavenger mine today. Actually, I mean, I think it was kind of what we all expected. I don't think too many people were too surprised by this, but we're going to talk about what became apparent today. Hill Dog, thank you for staying awake. Appreciate it. If you have to get some sleep, sleep is probably more important. It's probably more important, but I appreciate you staying up. Corny G, good to see you. Emilio says 0 problem solved after more than 24 hours. Don't know what the problem is, but after another 24 hours, I would have bored. Yeah, something's wrong. Something's definitely wrong. If you solved 0, there's something definitely wrong. Okay. So here's the way the day sort of started. Here's how things became apparent. Here's how things became apparent today. Marco says, my computer is dumb. I got too easy invalid yesterday. Yep, I think there's a number of things. There's a number of things that could cause these kind of problems. But here's the way things sort of started. And this was kind of a clue as to how the day was going to go. So here's a series of posts, right, where people were trying to calculate how much they thought would be how much night they thought would be earned per problem solved. And as we all know, this depends on how many miners are actually mining. When I mean miners, I don't mean humans. I mean instances of a browser that are mining, basically, unfortunately. So early on, though, I mean, you already saw some kind of discouraging numbers early on. So these guys went through this set of calculations. The original calculation was, okay, it's gonna be like 9.7 night per problem solved. Obviously, that was based on the current number of miners that were mining each of the problems. And then this poster came to a calculation for like 9.8 night. And then, made some assumptions about what we'll just call them projections. They're not even assumptions, but made some projections, based on, a certain value of night when it's able to be sold. So he's saying if Midnight reached 1 billion market cap, that would price one night at a little over 4 cents. I haven't double checked these numbers, but these are the numbers this person posted. So the mining return per hour is about 40 cents. So that was discouraging, especially when the same poster started talking about the price of electricity in various places. You might live in a place where the price of electricity is either much more than this, much less than this. I think there's probably people across the board, people above even these amounts, this amount in Germany of 39 cents per kilowatt hour. And I know there's many people in the US who are under this amount of 25 cents per kilowatt hour in the Netherlands. But whatever it is, the numbers were a little bit discouraging. And this person noted that they believed the number of miners will increase from the current 126,624 operating right now. This was 20 hours ago. So what happened after that? Well, we saw this. Midnight Foundation scavenger mine update. In light of the extraordinary volume of user activity, the question at this point was, what kind of users? Scavenger mine systems are currently experiencing exceptionally high load. Some users may see valid submissions appearing as invalid in the app. That happened to me. One of my puzzles showed up as invalid. I didn't do anything weird. In fact, my computer seemed to operate totally as normal. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But it was obvious they were getting a very large load. And the question was, what kinds of user activities were these? We know what the activities were, but what kinds of users are we talking about? Then we saw this at the end of the day. Day one, this is from NightSwap Labs. I don't know anything about NightSwap Labs. Maybe some of you do. Day one of Midnight's scavenger mine is over. They came up with these numbers: 7.9 million solutions submitted. That is a lot of solutions submitted. And as we'd find out, throughout the day, I think most of us already knew this, but what was confirmed to us for the day is that is not sort of, that number was not produced by humans, individual humans, each of them running like one one miner. We already knew that part, but it's much worse than that. So 3.75 night per solve, 90 night for completing all 24 challenges. During Glacier Drop Phase 1, you needed 261 ADA to get those same 90 night. So they're pointing out exactly what's obvious here is that it was much easier to get an allocation of night tokens based on your ADA. Even if we price this at the dollar value of kilowatt hours, the price of kilowatt hours in your neck of the woods, depending on when you bought the ADA, not even depending on when you bought the ADA, Phase 1, Glacier Drop Phase 1 was the time to get a lot of ADA, unless you did a certain thing that most of us either weren't able to do or weren't willing to do. So these are small numbers. 90 night does not seem like a lot. You can come to your own guesses about how much night is going to be worth. Nobody really knows. It's going to be a market, but 90 night is not a lot when you just had to be holding 261 ADA to get 90 night during the Phase 1 of the Glacier Drop. So then, of course, we all already knew what was going on here, but it became pretty obvious here. You saw people posting, I'm mining night, and then you see this. You think they will blacklist my wallet hive? This person has 3% share. If you weren't paying attention to these numbers, you probably realize that a lot of people, if you were just running one miner, a lot of people started out with sort of like one, what was it? Like 2/1000ths of a percent. And then sort of a two back here. And then if you're just running one miner, that kind of went to 1 and then it went to 0. This person had a 3% share, not a 0.003 share, a 3.000 share. So a gigantic share. Obviously, what was going on here is a lot of people were running virtual machines, and they could be running, the equivalent of any number of browsers. So, it was obvious that individuals were running, thousands of browsers, and they were going to dominate the mining. This is exactly what happened back in the day with proof of work mining. People were using CPUs, then it was immediately GPUs, then it was immediately application specific integrated circuits, ASICs, and it became a non-retail, non-normal person game. As soon as it went to that level, even at the start, it was like normal people could, at least fantasize about buying an ASIC and running it in their basement or something. And then it became apparent that the only way to do this, there was a period where literally you'd get the advice, the only way you can be competitive is if you have a warehouse of ASICs that is located next to a dam in China, because you can bribe the person running the hydroelectric generation at that dam to give you free electricity. That was the only way to be competitive for a while. That was a commonly accepted wisdom. So this is kind of consistent with the pattern we've always seen. Whenever there's proof of work, whenever the measure is compute, the industrial levels of compute will always push out retail. So it happened pretty fast here, but proof of work is nothing new. I'm just generically referring to this as proof of work, but really we're just solving puzzles here and being rewarded for that. But proof of work is nothing new to crypto. People have known how this works for a long time. And if all you have to do is set up a browser and a virtual machine, of course, immediately on day one, people are going to have thousands and thousands and thousands of miners running. So this shouldn't have really surprised anyone. I was hoping, kind of hoping maybe somehow Midnight had figured out something novel to prevent this from happening somehow. But if you think about it, not real, no way that I know of to do that. So not anything simplistic, no simplistic way to prevent this, because it's permissionless. So we have this conflict. There's this friction between permissionlessness and the loopholes instantly making it so that only industrial levels of compute can be competitive, right? I'll take permissionlessness. You could make this as permissioned as you want. You could require, retinal scans in order to prove that you're a single human to mine. Like, people are doing that right now. Most of you will know the name of that coin. I'm not going to say it, but most of you will know the name of that coin. So that's a thing. Proof of human is a thing. And of course you can do that, but then all of a sudden it's not really permissionlessness. It's not really permissionless. It's permissioned, you have to prove you're a human and then you get permission to do it. So this is permissionless. I'll take permissionlessness and have to sit back and recognize I'm going to earn very few of these night tokens. But it's also really hard to complain, right? Beggars can't be choosers, and we're getting these for free. So I don't fault the Midnight Foundation or whoever worked on this, whoever created this scavenger mine. I think it's awesome we all got to participate and we still get to participate. I think what's going to happen though is the participation is going to rapidly drop off. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to start thinking about the price of electricity and maybe even more importantly, just the heat degradation to their laptops from running them 24 hours a day. So I think participation is going to drop off in terms of actual humans, which is a metric we don't have for the aforementioned reasons. The number of miners is probably only going to increase. Just this screenshot alone is probably going to cause like 300 dudes to each try to achieve the same thing. Of course, they're not going to be able to because the number of submitted solutions is just going to go wild. But a bunch of dudes are going to realize all of a sudden that they could do the same thing, set up 1,000, 1,000 browsers, all mining simultaneously too. And I don't really blame them either. I mean, when things are permissionless, the beautiful thing is that you can outwork, out innovate, out engineer others. And the people who are doing this just figured out a better way to mine than the rest of us. So this is what we got. This is what we got at this point. So this person, Steven posted this, the entire Cardano community right now. I think this was pretty accurate at the time this was posted 11 hours ago. I think this is pretty much what was going on for the entire Cardano community. This is before everybody realized, the actual economic value of the number of miners they're running. So we'll see. I mean, you can always say, hey, what if somehow the price of night goes crazy? Then it'll be just like Bitcoin. A bunch of people like this, a bunch of neck-bearded dungeon masters, mining away in their parents' basements, doing something that no one thought had any economic value. They kind of just thought they were participating in this decentralized ecosystem. And lo and behold, all those guys, if they held on to their Bitcoin, made a huge amount of money. So that could happen too. Or it could be, that never happens. We don't know. But I think participation is probably going to drop off in terms of actual humans who are willing to run their laptops or their desktops 24 hours a day. So this also happened. So this is interesting because I believe this is exactly the challenge where I also got a solution invalid. I think 13 was exactly the one. Did anybody else have a solution invalid on 13 specifically? Mickey Bubbles at 3 a.m. Thank you for joining. No, thank you. This channel has always been composed of night owls. Night owls were a gigantic part of this channel and still are. I myself am a very, very nocturnal person. So I don't think this is terrible at all. So I hope you do get some sleep, but thank you for being here. Jolie says, I will send anyone tonight for everyone you send me. yes, we are all, I think many of us are familiar with this trap. Someone using Firefox had to unblock or turn off something in the browser settings, was blocking the mining script. Yeah, I saw people talking about Firefox. I saw people talking about the problem. I didn't see the solution, but that makes sense. Yeah, Raz, thank you for joining. We are live. Thank you for joining. Yeah, I am so sorry, guys. I am so sorry. Let's see if I can do it right. Mr. iWebco DMS, I am so sorry. I know it's late. I know it's late for you guys. I'm so sorry. Browsers go to sleep. I thought if you had sleep turned off on the device, it was good. But the price could go very high in the future is the proposition, right? I mean, yeah, this is the same fundamental proposition of all of crypto. If you have a hard capped or a mildly expanding cryptocurrency like Ethereum, whereas Cardano would be an example of the former, then the proposition is always that the price could go high. The price will go to the moon. That's always the proposition, which may or may not turn out to be true. So we'll see with this one. J. Marie says, with all the data, I wonder what Midnight has learned about bot farms and identifying them and how they work. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much they had under the hood. If they had anything to try to combat, one person running 1,000 miners, or if they sort of realized really early on, or maybe even before they started building, that was just going to be the case. And they're like, this is what it is, just based on the history of proof of work. I think we all knew. Anybody who was around during those early days of proof of work, when normal people were still buying miners and trying to mine, anybody who was around during that period remembers how fast it progressed and how fast the ability to mine sort of got out of the hands of retail, normal people. I mean, every once in a while you still hear a crazy story about somebody running, some little tiny miner with super low hash rate. You still hear stories, about people actually getting a block in Bitcoin, so, mathematically, there are things that are possible, but, back in those days, it was really obvious. It became obvious really fast that everything was going to become very, very industrial grade. Okay, does anyone know how to do the manual address for setting up for mining? I don't know how to send the manual transaction to allow mining off my Eternal wallet. It's pretty easy. So signing the message saying you're agreeing to the end user terms of use is pretty easy in Lace. In Lace, if you click on the icon in the top right, you'll see a button that says sign transaction. I actually ran into another problem trying to do that earlier today. I actually ran into another problem after that. So signing the transaction isn't that hard in Lace, but I still wasn't able to do it for another reason. NeoChat says, I had 2 invalids in a row. Anyone else not mining? I think there's a lot of people who are going to close that tab, sort of in the next 24, 48 hours. I think there's going to be a lot of laptops that get closed like tonight and especially tomorrow night. I think that's going to happen as people realize what the numbers are looking like. Cardoniverse says, I have 2 Copy nodes earning 19 Copy per day. Paid $700 for 2 game nodes. Night is free. This is a good point. I don't have any background on, the Copy stuff you're talking about, but this is a very good point. Like I said, beggars can't be choosers. It's really cool they did this, especially because this is just sort of on top of all the awesomeness that we got during phase 1. The allocations to ADA holders were insane compared to Bitcoin. Like, even if you owned substantial amounts of Bitcoin, if you had, equally substantial amounts of ADA, like the amount of the Bitcoin allocation was so small, it almost didn't even make it worth it to, risk hooking your Bitcoin bags, your Bitcoin hardware wallets up to, a wallet. It almost didn't even make it worth it. So we killed it. I think ADA holders killed it in terms of the number of night. Again, I have no idea how much night is actually gonna be worth, so we'll see on that part. But in terms of the number of night tokens we got, ADA holders killed it, and it was free, and the scavenger mine is free. So I'm just glad I got some amount. I got to participate, on day 1. I got some amount. I'm gonna keep participating, for some amount of time. Who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind tomorrow or something. If I notice my machines are getting too hot. I actually started hooking up some older laptops I had laying around. So we'll see how those do on cooling, because some of them do not have state-of-the-art cooling systems. I'll put it that way. So we'll see how they do. Mr. iWebCode DMS says, Mickey Bubbles, nice to have a Limey join us. UK needs a revolution. Okay. I can imagine people setting up 8-foot tables end to end and 16 laptops. Yep. I think there was quite a bit of that going on. And then those people just got dominated by the people setting up virtual machines. So But, you know, there's a serious question here, though, and people brought this up today on Cardano X. So the question is, given the price of electricity, people setting up virtual machines, they're paying some amount for each of those instances. They've got to make the decision whether it's worth it to keep running those. You know, as more and more people jump in, it's like people are going to be calculating the price they pay for energy per kilowatt hour, and they're going to be thinking about the degradation to their machines, you know, if they don't have an awesome cooling system, you know, because most people, you know, I won't say a lot of people are not normally running their computer 24 hours a day. So there's some additional wear and tear there going on. So people are gonna have to make that decision. You know, who knows? And maybe that'll be a limiting factor. Maybe that'll limit the number of people who are running thousands and thousands. But the problem is the hope that it's like Bitcoin, you mine it, you think maybe it's gonna be worth nothing, and it turns out to be worth a huge amount. I think that can cause people to spend quite a bit on virtual machines just so they can dominate this scavenger mine. We'll see what actually happens though, but I'll be curious to see. I'll be curious. I'm already at I was only running two. I tried to set up some of my even older laptops. I think I was only running two miners for, you know, part of today. I was running two miners, and on each of them it already shows my share as being off the charts low. It's already, you know, 0.0000%. So I don't know if eventually they'll add more zeros so they can show us something. But I'm already at zeros. So okay. This account works. This account works, BindoCam. This one works. That's what they do in the PI. Okay, what is that? Oh, in the Philippines? You're talking about the Philippines. Yep, 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 yep. Seen this with phones. Definitely seen this with phones. Kristen, it would be pretty cool if the night estimate is inaccurate for the bot miners. Would they have a different wallet for each miner? Maybe they'll be docked from multiple devices going to one wallet. I mean, yeah, they have different unused addresses. They have different unused addresses. I assume, unless they've got some workaround for that too. I assume they just have a different unused address for each one of their miners, which makes it which is a problem for controlling them. So I wish that Midnight had something. Obviously, anybody who's not running thousands of miners wishes there was some way to control that, but it's looking like not. It's looking like that's not the case. If some of these screenshots we saw were correct, you know, maybe all these screenshots are not correct, but I think the way the number of submitted solutions skyrocketed, it looks like we're not going to earn, you know, too much if you're just running, you know, a few browsers on a few laptops or something. Yep, NeoChad says 13. Otis Fritjov says yes on 13. Same for Afro in the Wind. I had 13 invalid, but it eventually solved for you. Oh, good for you. Good for you. Congratulations. Lucky 13. Yep. Same here. 13 was the one. Ooh, 7. Otis Fritjov also missed 7 through 11. Wow. When Kraken lists it. Yeah, we'll see what the we'll see. We'll actually address part of that a little bit later, but we'll see what the centralized exchanges do. I'm curious. But if you have a market cap of 500 million fully diluted, it's like 2 cents. I think you're going to see some depressed prices since people from other chains are just interested in dumping. For sure, that's been the story of airdrops for a long time in crypto. My goal 504 on my one miner. B1 ADA, are you saying you're just saying you want to get 504 solutions out of the 504 available. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Cardano Universe, kind of the same, says not a quitter. Chrome has a memory save setting that will make tabs inactive if they're not in use. True. I run many tabs normally. So actually all the time I run many tabs, and I've experienced this. Okay, Mr. iWebCode EMS, any scuttlebutt as to what is going on with this economic beating we seem to be enjoying? All the news seems on the positive side. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about that. Not every day will be the same. Yep. Kristen says, thank you to DVNC. Yep. Anyone mining, stop after getting their midnight. Fly over me. Are you saying you stopped at the 24-hour point? Is that what you're saying? Cardano Universe says, I think we'll have better days mining. Yeah, it could be these people running all the virtual machines will decide the cost of running those virtual machines is not worth it. So maybe the number of people running thousands of browsers will go down. We don't know. Has the registration ended? I don't know the answer to that question. That's a good question. Yeah, Charles's videos. He has good timing. He definitely knows when to throw those videos out that are like, hey guys, crypto's not, the end all be all of life. There's so many good things. Just walk outside and touch the grass. He does those videos kind of when the community needs it. I think he has pretty good timing. He has pretty good intuition on that kind of stuff. BR6489 says I solved 13, but 16 was invalid. Okay. Kind of reminds me of the trick-or-treaters, the kids who take one candy and may politely ask for another versus other kids who just grab the whole bucket like it was always theirs to begin with. I noticed that too. There's definitely a big difference. There's definitely kids who will take as many as possible and kids who don't want to take too much. Yeah, human behavior is very varied. It's true. Yeah, it feels like it's Halloween already for sure. Mine keeps saying waiting for the next challenge, but it says I'm active. I have another computer running that's solving challenges working fine, just not the two that received night. Anyone fix? Yeah, this happened to me many times today. And I refreshed the browser and it worked when that happened. Yep, that's what I heard. I heard iPads are no go. Flower of Me says no, still mining, but something happened and it stopped after they updated the estimated claim. Mine did that for a second. Too. And I can't remember if I refreshed and that fixed it or if I just waited and that fixed it, but that happened to me as well. Okay, back to things. So this is I thought of this post when I saw someone mention when Kraken to list, right? So this is an important question. So this is something we should all be thinking about, actually. So Midnight Foundation, what a start. And they talk about how great it is. 3.2 million solutions have been submitted. This is 14 hours ago. That was in the first 12 hours. So, and they're right. This was quite the start. But then this poster posted something very important that we should all be thinking about. What kind of sell pressure can we expect from your team when redemption begins as all the Midnight Foundation tokens, 41% of total supply, become transferable while everyone else has to wait 1 to 90 days to receive 25% of their allocation? I remember that part, us having to wait 1 to 90 days to receive 25% of our allocations. I remember that part being true. And then the following 25% tranches will happen, I believe, exactly 90 days from whenever that first one hits. So the first one will be random. We don't know. It'll be between 1 and 90 days into the thaw that will happen. And then each additional 25% tranche, if I remember correctly, is exactly 90 days from that day. But apparently that does not apply to the Midnight Foundation tokens. I can't remember the exact percentage they get, but this makes sense. And here he highlighted night tokens allotted to the Midnight Token Generation event and the Midnight Foundation will be immediately transferable and capable of being used in pursuit of advancing the development of the Midnight ecosystem. And that's in this list that starts with at the beginning of the redemption period. So at the beginning of the redemption period, it sounds to me, based on this, it sounds to me like the Midnight Foundation gets all of its coins and they're immediately transferable. So it sounds like this scenario is possible, that they could be selling their coins And we might be waiting, who knows, 45, 50, 1, 5, 10, 25 days before we can sell ours. So part of that is that they will, a lot of people would only sell once Kraken has listed it, or some other big exchange, to get some liquidity. I'm trying not to use the word exit liquidity, but to get some liquidity. So this is a thing. This is a thing that I think everybody should be thinking about. I don't see any responses here, but I think this is only 181 people saw this post. But I remember this page from the tokenomics paper. I remember this exact page. So this is something that everybody should be thinking about. Okay. Kim Ching says mine's the same thing, but it still says I'm active, just shows 0 for the next challenge. This is what happened to me. This is what happened to me many times, and I refreshed, and that seemed to fix it on my system. So no guarantees for anybody else. I set up on their computer and running challenges. This was the same thing with me. My second laptop showed me that I should have already been served that next challenge on the first one, which is what caused me to hit refresh. Pretty sure one of the challenges broke my PC because it took 4 hours, a diagnostic test, and a few restarts before it started working again. Lost out on 5 challenges. Oh, sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. Did anyone else get some Bill Media token? It's so good. It's a one-man show that is unreleased. William Shatner changing the game. So, okay. Good morning, Mission Zambia. GD Extreme. Hello. Jolie says, I want to go to Zambia. So let's have a little, we've talked about all the bad things. We've talked about all the bad, maybe not all the bad things. We've talked about a few bad things already. Not exactly positive things. Let's hit some positive things. But first, let's hit a few of these comments. You'd think I would learn from Meld, but most likely my stubborn determination to believe in ZK proof layer that works for all just sounds too good to cash out ASAP. Kim Cha-ching says you have to do a reset the window and start running it again. Me, I just had to refresh the tab on my browser. But your mileage may vary. Other people might have to, reset the whole window, but maybe you were just running one tab in the window. Yep. Okay. Mission Zambia says here are the midnight tokenomics from an X post. Scavenger mine 2.6%, lost and found 2.6%, Midnight Foundation 35%, token generation event 10%, on-chain treasury 5%, network reserve 30%. That matches my recollection. That matches what I remember. Cardano Universe says we should hold night long term and think about staking it for long term. Maybe everybody's gonna have to make those decisions, I think, and I have no idea what's right. Yep, Kim Cha-ching is advising the same thing. I thought about BR6489 says I bought the dip today. All right. Wow, Mission Zambia is saying they'll host you in Zambia, Jolie. That might you might want to take them up on that. You might want to take Mission Zambia up on that. Yep, Fly Over Me saying the same thing as Kim Cha-ching. Why are we mining besides earning night? What are we mining? This is a question I have. Oi Shipley, is it Oi Shipley or Oi Shipley? Oi Shipley, this is my question. What are we mining? Are these just arbitrary puzzles, or are they gonna, it'd be really cool if they revealed to us that this was like one of those programs where we're actually helping, some astronomical observatory to calculate, something, the trajectory of comets or something. That would be especially cool because of 3i Atlas right now. But if we were helping, calculate, trajectories of comets, something like that, it'd be cool if it was useful proof of work. Charles has talked about this before. He's talked specifically about that. I can't remember what the exact use case was, but there was some like hard science thing. There was some hard science calculations that didn't have enough compute, basically. And Charles talked before about using the compute from proof of work to do things like that. This is what I hope. So I thought about this today. Today I was thinking about this. He's mining Bitcoin using all of us. So this one would be awesome. It'd be awesome if it was to help some hard science endeavor. This is the one that I thought about today. I was like, it would be super hilarious if we were actually just, if we were just running numbers to try to do the proof of work for Bitcoin if we were all just doing, because we don't know. As far as I know, it hasn't been announced what work we're doing, but we could easily just be punching numbers into SHA-256 to mine Bitcoin to try to hit the right number under the difficulty number to mine blocks of Bitcoin. That'd be super hilarious if the Midnight Foundation was able to mine a few blocks or something through all of this work. That would be excellent. I mean, that would be, if you were just trying to serve your economic interests, that would be the right thing to do with all of this compute that we're providing. That would be like exactly the right thing to do. And it might be worth it in the long run for the value of the ecosystem, for the Midnight Foundation to have the mining rewards from those blocks. Google Cloud is Midnight's partner, not some. True. 3i Atlas contacted Charles after he dredged up their ship from the ocean, and they're asking him to get them some BTC. I'm down for that. I'm down for that as long as they don't invade. As long as they don't invade us. James Syracuse, sup? Good to see you. What if they're just testing the network functionality and giving BS problems just justify giving away tokens? That's what we've kind of. That's what I think most people are assuming. But it'd be cool if we were doing some useful work. I'm actually okay, even if it's mining, even if they're mining Bitcoin with our compute. It'd be kind of weird because they would have to be having like each of us, like running punching a few numbers into SHA-256 to try to get a number that's under the target number, and then they would have to sort of be correlating, all of us running those numbers, like sequencing the numbers, and it'd be interesting. It would be interesting. They would have had to have done a bunch of work to make that work. So it'd be cool if they did that, and it would also be some money for the Midnight Foundation, which probably be good for the ecosystem in the long haul. So, Grok, all your base belong to me. Yeah. If that is the case, I don't mind leaving my laptop running. Yeah, same thing. If they were mining Bitcoin with our compute somehow, I'd probably leave my laptop running, just to help out the Midnight Foundation. And if they were doing some hard science stuff, I would, probably run it when it was convenient. I might still turn it off at night. I didn't turn it off last night, but I might turn it off at night. But I would definitely run it more if I knew there was useful proof of work going on. Knight is not a dumb meme token like Doge. That's true. That's a very good point. It is not a meme token. So let's go back to, I started to get into this, but let's talk about some good things. Let's talk about some good things, because I think it's easy to miss the silver lining. It's easy to miss the positive aspects of what's going on a day like this. Yeah, this would be the other way to look at that. We just mined a Bitcoin block and we all get a 0% share. But I mean, if we end up with Night tokens and the Midnight Foundation uses it to improve the network, it kind of is helpful to us too. So I don't know. Different people's opinions may vary on that one, but we'll see. We'll see what it is. I kind of think, because Charles has talked about the useful proof of work in the past, pretty, like, numerous times he's mentioned this. I kind of hope we get some announcement that it's useful proof of work being used in hard sciences to provide compute that otherwise, scientists in that field couldn't access because they don't have the funding. That'd be great if we can push forward, science. That'd be great. So here's a positive thing though to look at. So look at this. Bitcoin 2025, it's not just Cardano. A lot of times in Cardano, we have this mentality like, oh, why isn't Cardano doing better? Look at these other ecosystems. Every ecosystem is actually like this. It's always, greener on the other side of the fence. The grass is greener on the other side of the fence. And it's not actually true right now. So if you look at Bitcoin, 2025 has been rough for all of crypto. So Bitcoin up 50% over the last year. Ethereum up 43.5%. And yes, I'm giving you the the noob view instead of the candles on purpose, just to make things a little bit more clear, because we're going to click through these. We're looking at 50% and 43.5% for Ethereum. Solana even only 5.6% over the course of last year. They're up 5%. Look at Cardano. Look at Cardano. 69.64%. We've actually done much better. Last 12 months, we've done much better than all those ecosystems. And true, what's going to happen over the next month? We're going to climb this little hill here, and all those percentages are massively going to change. But they're going to change for everybody, because everybody kind of went through the same. We're all about to run into the same bumps. When you look at the 12-year gains, it's going to change for everybody. Look at this. Everybody has this bump coming up, starting in November, because it was the last 2 months of the year last year. See, every single ecosystem, same thing. All those percentages are going to change massively. But out of those four, Cardano is much better off over the last 12 months. True, that's because a big part of that is because Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin all had crazy 12 months, or 24 months prior to that we didn't experience because of various things, including institutional money flowing into Bitcoin and Ethereum. But over the last 12 months, Cardano has done quite well, better than Bitcoin, better than Ethereum, better than Solana, according to these numbers. Okay, we need to know why. This whole Night Token thing is giving me some Severance vibes. I have not watched Severance, so I don't know. Oh, by the way, are people going to watch The Witcher this weekend? Are people interested in The Witcher, the new season of The Witcher? Or is everybody like, Thor's brother sucks as The Witcher? I don't know. I can't tell which way it's going to go. But are people actually going to watch it? Ask Rock. Nice. I just want to play Infinity Rising while my wallets make me money over time because of my investments in the bear. Is that too much to ask for? I feel the same. I just want to run around Infinity Rising, doing fun futuristic things, and make money passively. That would be great. Ada is a grower, not a shower. Well put, Jolie. Well put. James Syracuse says I started it last night. Awesome. Joe Davidson, also a good point. At some point, growers got to show. Yep. I'll check out The Witcher because I'm a straight nerd that checks out all things sci-fi fantasy. Yep. I agree. I'm definitely gonna watch it. I'm worried. I'm worried about Thor's little brother. Please do a good job. I'm a little bit worried about you. Henry Cavill was a pretty good Witcher. I'm a little worried about Thor's little brother. Okay, so we need to wrap up what happened last night as we went through the live stream. Chairman Ryan and Chairman Donald were actually meeting. But here we have some coverage of what actually happened. Trump lowers tariffs. So BBC went with Trump lowers tariffs on China and announces end to rare earths roadblock after Xi meeting. I like these two video titles they included, though. Chairman Ryan, we do not always see eye to eye. Chairman Donald, we're going to have a fantastic relationship. That kind of sums it up to me right there. That's like the whole thing. That's the whole thing right there. Okay, let's see. A few comments. I have seen Three Body Problem and I like it. And it's a great illustration of the dark force theory, which frankly frightens me. I'm all for us never sending another signal out into space. I will be happy if we never encounter aliens. I obviously, if you've watched any of the alien rumor rundowns, you know that I have spent a lot of time on that particular topic, and I will be very happy if it turns out we are alone in the universe and there are no aliens, there are no UFOs. I would prefer that. I'm afraid it's true. Flying Hambone. Henry was born for The Witcher. I'm not hating on the new guy, but I agree there's a big shoes to fill. That's the problem. I mean, it's courageous for him to take that role. It takes a lot of courage to take that role because Henry Cavill is The Witcher. Grok. Oh, Cardano Universe saying Grok. Grok says no. Knight is not a meme token like Dogecoin. Okay, I agree. Soybeans for Fent. Yeah, kind of true. Omar, right. Thanks for joining. Emilio says being alone is boring. I would rather be bored than alien shock troops dragging us out of our houses and shooting us in the street. So, or maybe they just, send an overly large comet like 3I Atlas, into our planet. I'd rather be bored, but if they're cool aliens, that would be all right. But I'm a little bit afraid it's more like there are, thousands and thousands of species we might encounter, and just like you know Europeans and others coming to the New World, coming to the Western Hemisphere, it's like sometimes things went okay. Sometimes everybody died of a new disease or got slaughtered, by swords made out of materials you had, not really seen before. So got slaughtered by technology you just hadn't gotten to the point where you could invent. It's like I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little bit afraid. I'm a little bit afraid it's going to turn out more like we're the inhabitants of the New World, and we suddenly encounter these people with higher technology. That did not turn out well for the inhabitants of the New World. Okay, that's why I asked, because last night you were talking about sending a signal into space. New season soon. Yeah. No. The dark forest theory is very problematic, and three body problem is a very good explanation of why it's such a big problem. But yeah, I'll watch that new season. When is it? I'll definitely watch that one. Aliens most definitely exist. The whole universe is made of the same stuff. Distances are too vast for us to have any connection, though, for now at least. I mean, it depends. I mean, the distances are vast. I agree with everything you said, by the way, but the distances are vast given our understanding of physics and our technology and our material science. But, if we were 100,000 years more advanced, do those distances become too vast? The reason I say that is because I think about it in that New World context, right? It's like for an inhabitant of the New World upon European contact, it was absurd. Like taking a boat across the Atlantic, might have seemed absurd to some Aztec dude. It might have seemed absurd to even imagine that somebody could travel that far in a boat. It wouldn't have made any sense if you didn't have a sailboat, right? It wouldn't have made any sense. I think it could be true for us too. It could be that we assume the distances are too vast because we're not 100,000 years more advanced than we are. So that's a problem for me. And it doesn't seem to go well for the lesser advanced civilization when they encounter a very advanced civilization. Like seldom in human history has that gone well for the less advanced civilization. That is true. That is true. We are all kind of in this Cardano thing together. Ooh, that's a that's a that's a little bit of a scary one. We'll see how that goes. We'll see if that turns out to be the case. Jeremy Corbell definitely seems to think so. Okay, back to this though. Back to this. Sorry, I got sidetracked by the alien thing. So on the way back to Washington, Trump said the meeting was a 12 out of 10. Beijing said the results were hard won. It sounds, you could tell when they shook hands. Chairman Ryan was less stoked than Chairman Donald. Chairman Donald was like stoked. He was acting like he was seeing his old friend, his old college buddy. And Chairman Xi was like, I can't believe I have to do this. Chairman Ryan was not as stoked and as enthusiastic. Chairman Donald, very happy to be there. So the U.S. will cut the fentanyl tariff on Chinese goods entering the U.S. from 20% to 10%. In return, China will start the purchase of massive amounts of soybeans and their farm products, according to Chairman Donald. China says they will make it easier for the U.S. to buy rare earths. Okay, sounds good. They kind of have to. That's like what we need. That's what we're trying to negotiate for here. In return, China says the U.S. will suspend an expansion of export controls on foreign firms listed on the entity list. So this went about like we thought. Like they haven't quite signed anything. You know, the U.S. side is more glowingly positive about what happened. The CCP side is more like, we showed up, we did the thing. So we'll see how this actually goes. But actually, I think as we discussed last night, the results in South Korea, the results in Japan, plus this is about as well as you could have expected it to go. So this went okay, I think. Flying Hambone says lightsabers. Man, I hope they don't have lightsabers. Even more so, I hope they don't have directed energy weapons of any kind. I hope they don't have lasers. So I would prefer if they didn't have technology that advanced. Mr. iWebco DMS says Trump Xi meeting must have been great. Next headline: we test some nukes tomorrow. Yep, that's true. Shortly, I think it was like shortly before the meeting. It wasn't really covered by the mainstream media until after, but shortly before the meeting, Trump basically posted that we're going to resume nuclear testing, which we haven't done since I believe the early 90s. So, which, not to go back to the alien thing, but that is there's also this huge narrative in the UAP community. I hate to call it that, but the UFO community, basically, that the aliens don't like us kicking off nukes. So that's a big thread. That's a big thread in the greater tapestry of, the greater narrative in the UAP community about aliens. They do not like us kicking off nukes. So anyways, we'll see what happens if we start kicking off nukes. And I think if you've ever looked at the information behind the book, UFOs and nukes, it's pretty hard to deny the connection between UAP sightings and nuclear activity. Even just having nukes at a site makes it so much more likely that there are going to be UAP sightings by very, very sober, like nuclear silo operators. If you've never heard one of those guys talk about their UAP encounters, it's these guys, famously, these guys are described as not even being allowed to take aspirin without having to report it to their, the guys keeping an eye on them. So they're very, very sober individuals. And in that book, UAPs and nukes, those guys have a huge number of sightings to report about UAPs. Welcome to the night shift. Yes, this is the night shift. There's actually a great UAP channel called Night Shift, so I don't want to usurp his name there. A lot of people talk about this. The connection between historical stories or stories in various scriptures or other texts related to religions. There's a lot of stuff almost in every religion. There's a lot of stuff that seems to match a lot of things in the sort of alien narrative. Why not land on Venus instead of Mars? There's a really big conspiracy theory about this because the USSR paid a huge amount of attention to Venus. So there's quite a big conspiracy theory that actually Venus is not as inhospitable as we've been led to believe it is. I usually don't buy into really hardcore conspiracy theories like that, but recently I see more and more information about Venus, but I think we've been directed so hard toward Mars. I agree. There's less discussion about Venus than I think there should be. I agree with that, actually. Okay. Trying to catch up a little bit on the comments. Okay, 3-body problem. I think this is 3-body problem. Late 2026 launch is considered probable. I like that. Yep. Jolie, you know what? I tend to think the same. Think the same, especially after everything we've learned about the ocean and UAP sightings. I actually covered that pretty heavily on a alien rumor rundown. So, and that one made sense to me. And I agree. It kind of explains a lot if you believe they've always been here. Yep, that's my understanding as well. Yep. I don't know too much about water on Venus, but yeah, I think we've never been there, so what do we know? Okay, Emilio says we need millions of years of technology evolution, and even then there's no guarantee. Most likely we kill ourselves by accident long before. Yeah, so this is like the great filter thing. It's like, can civilizations. So the alternative to the dark forest hypothesis, the dark forest hypothesis is the reason we don't get signals from alien civilizations is because it's like you're in the dark forest. When you're in a dark forest, you don't yell out like, "Hey, is anyone here?" Because then creatures in the dark forest know you're there and they come and kill you. It's like it's sort of a game theory thing. It's like if you're the planet that's yelling out, "Hey, anybody out there?" Other civilizations, if they're more advanced than you, or they're just like slightly more advanced than you, even, they have to worry about you becoming advanced enough that you become a threat to them. So, from a purely game theoretic based analysis, you can argue that they will always just come and destroy you. Because if they destroy you, there's no chance that you get advanced enough to challenge them. So it's like, why wouldn't they just come and destroy you? Another hypothesis, there are many of these hypotheses about, why we haven't seen, basically the Fermi paradox, why we haven't seen evidence of other civilizations. Another hypothesis is that there's this great filter and that civilizations destroy themselves before they get to the point where they can travel these vast distances. So that's kind of what you're expressing here. We need millions of years of technological evolution. The thing is that we might be a young planet. In fact, we are compared to many of the things we know about in the cosmos, including 3i Atlas. The current analysis that I keep hearing is that 3i Atlas is probably much, much older than Earth. So, and we know there are other, things in the cosmos that are much, much older than Earth. So, and humans have only been around on Earth for a certain amount of time, and when we talk about the age of planets, we're talking about billions of years. So it's very easy. And actually, I think we can make the case statistically probable that, if we think about the statistical probability of other civilizations, you hear this all the time, statistically, there should be, millions of other civilizations out there. So if you think about millions of other civilizations and the fact that some of their planets are so much older than ours, and they might have just, uh, something like us might have evolved so much quicker, easily, statistically, we could very easily have, many, 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 many civilizations that are actually millions of years more advanced than us. I think that's very possible. Why do all the elites worship Saturn? Yeah, that's kind of an interesting. You can go down a Grokpedia hole on this tonight if you want to torture yourself with lack of sleep, and just Google those words. Just Google those words and start reading articles on Grok. I'm sure they're there because they're definitely there on Wikipedia. And you could just Google. You could just Google what is named after Saturn. How about that one? What is named after Saturn? what 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 well-known figures are related to Saturn, and you will have quite a read. Europa, yeah, Europa definitely has water. There was a whole movie made about I think us sending like a probe, and there were like these, what were they, like kind of like giant alien squid living under the ice on Europa, something like that. But yeah, we've got to go. We've got to go to these planets and check them out. We've got to send probes at least. We got to land on Europa for sure. That's one of the ones that people have the biggest hopes for. Apparently, we think it's covered in ice, but there's liquid water under the ice. So people are hoping, it's kind of like Antarctica. You got some ice on top, but then underneath you go have all this life, all this weird life. So people are hoping Europa is a whole moon like that. Are we still calling Europa a moon? I think we are. Aliens love nukes. That's the who's the author of that book? UFOs and Nukes. I think it was Richard Hastings. I could have I'm just pulling this off the top of my head. I could have that wrong, but that whole book, that's the synopsis of that whole book. Aliens love nukes. They love to be around when humans are doing nuke stuff. I don't know if that means they love them or they hate them and they're keeping a super close eye on them. Missiles going everywhere. I hope you're not giving me a current event. I hope that is not a current event you're telling me about right now. Have you read Halo: The Fall of Reach? I know of it. I know of it. I have not read it. Oh God, please. I can't even. Please. ET, not Predator, not xenomorphs. I do not want any Predator or xenomorph situations. Your thoughts on the Y-Files? Y-Files is awesome. That dude knows so much about every single conspiracy theory. It's really interesting because he doesn't believe in most of them. Most of them he does not believe in. And so he'll give you the whole, he kind of like stillmans the opposite of his view. He gives you all the details on why people believe in these conspiracy theories. And then at the end, he's like, I don't really believe, and here's why, but he lets you indulge in the conspiracy theory. And then at the end, he explains to you the holes in the theory, which I think is great. It's great that he's so rational and he's actually, willing to go to enough detail to let the audience indulge in the actual conspiracy theory so that people can understand both sides of it. So I think he's great. I didn't realize how smart that dude was until he went on Rogan. I had seen, many episodes of the Y-Files just like everybody else. Hearing his backstory was really interesting. And then realizing how smart that dude is kind of surprised me. I thought he was just a really good presenter. I didn't realize dude's pretty sharp. Dude's pretty sharp. Waiting for Kim Jong missile. Oh, God, I hope not. Enough of that. No more Kim Jong missiles over Japan. We do not need that. We do not need that. Although Chairman Donald did make a really big deal. He did get. I haven't actually watched any video or anything, but apparently he got pretty emotional hearing stories from families of people who got kidnapped by North Korean subs. I'm assuming. I just saw the headline that he got emotional when he heard stories from Japanese families about their loved ones being kidnapped by North Korea. The most famous stories I hear about that are like a North Korean sub pops up on a beach and grabs, some chick off a beach, and then she's never seen or heard from again. Horrifying stuff. Drew Davidson says Book of Enoch, not Genesis. Yeah, that's the one I hear more about. I hear more about the Book of Enoch and the alien stuff. Although I have also seen some people make a lot of good. I won't say good. I've heard people make some very interesting comparisons between Genesis and some of the Anunnaki stories. We're getting a deep conspiracy territory there, and I'm not pushing that as something people should believe, but I'm just saying there are also people do try to draw comparisons between Genesis and some of the Anunnaki stuff. So who knows? I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know what's true or not. Flying ham bone. Yeah, that kind of fell out of the news cycle, didn't it? Venus, you would melt so fast. Yeah, that's definitely the conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom is definitely that. There's some aberrations about the Soviet. So the Soviet Union was like fascinated with Venus, though. They explored Venus way too much, and I kind of think there's some things they know about Venus that the Soviets knew about Venus that the Western world, has never quite been privy to. And I don't know. This is probably the case. It's probably still the case that you'd melt so fast, but there's some hidden reason why the Soviets were so fascinated with Venus, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's really weird. It's like we think of our solar system as being this like 2D thing. It's really this weird 3D thing that's all sort of rotating around the sun and each other. Everything, the gravity of everything's affecting everything else. And then the whole thing, our whole solar system is flying through space, itself. So, I mean, when you think about that in 3D, and then you think about the amount of time we're talking about, the amount of time that this has been going on, you can convince me of almost anything being captured by the gravity of our solar system and, there's all kinds of theories about the asteroid belts and where those came from, whether or not two planets collided or something collided into a planet and created the asteroid belt, various asteroid belts. So there's all kinds of interesting things. You heard about Pluto. The last thing I know about Pluto was everybody was disappointed when it was declassified as a planet. Cardano universe says my wife is an alien. Yep. I can sympathize. My significant other. Yep. What if we are the aliens? This is actually what I believe. This is actually what I believe. I believe I won't say believe. An idea that I consider is that we are the aliens to Earth. That is something I consider. And that, I mean, that's actually the, I won't tell you which show, but one of the shows I referenced today on X, that is the plot of that show. And for everybody who's seen it, knows what I'm talking about. It was a great show, a great sci-fi show, and the ultimate hidden detail in the show is exactly what you just described. I believe we are on a flat plane and there is space outside of our Antarctica. Why else would the whole world have a treaty on that? I think it runs around us and it's froze to the ice wall. Oh, this is the flat Earth theory. Yeah, there's some weirdness with Antarctica for sure. You can get pretty deep. There's some pretty deep conspiracy theories. There's the Admiral Byrd thing, I mean, that's a pretty deep conspiracy. When I say deep, I just mean people get obsessed with it. I'm not saying it's deep, like it should be believed or it's persuasive, because actually the Admiral Byrd thing, if you look at the debunking of that, like the genesis of that story, how that story got published, there's some sketchiness around, God, what was it, like his son or his nephew or something was the one who published that story like years after he died, something like that. So, yeah, there's some weirdness with Antarctica for sure. Okay, like med device companies about smaller companies to bury patents. Yeah, that sucks. Elon might be an alien. Yep. The Earth is like 4,000 years old. Who said that? If I said that, I think I was talking about the Earth being billions of years old. If I said thousands, I meant billions, obviously. But I don't even know if it was me who said that. But if it was, I meant billions. So. And actually, this is something that Avi Loeb discussed with Rogan the other night. He talked about the fact that the Earth is, how old do we think the Earth is? It's like, I don't know how many billions of years old the scientists assigned to the Earth, but he talked about the probability that other planets are much older than ours, and advanced life forms like us might have evolved on different timescales on those other planets that are billions of years older than our planet, which is also billions of years old. Okay, let's hit some of the other. Let's hit some of the other points here. Okay, we got Jamie Dimon has fully flip-flopped now. This is more of TradFi embracing crypto, guys. Jamie Dimon is fully flip-flopped on crypto. If you watch this in this little interview, it's short, 17 seconds. But if you watch this, he basically says, we're all going to be using crypto. We're all going to be using smart contracts. He's basically like, DeFi is the future, saying all the things that people have speculated for years he'd be saying one day. And he said there's going to be a JP Morgan deposit coin. It's like, he's just like, yep, totally on board. I'm totally on board. So one of the biggest outside of Berkshire Hathaway, one of the biggest haters of crypto back in the day, like Berkshire Hathaway, they were definitely the biggest haters, but Jamie Dimon, not far behind them. He was right up there in the pantheon of crypto haters, and now he's like fully flip-flopped. He's just like completely on board. I think the younger people at JP Morgan just like eventually had enough evidence to convince him that they were missing out on this huge economic movement. So Jolie says, I'm more worried about the implications of a large Hadron Collider, entities coming through or some other accident, than an alien invasion. That one's awesome. I love that one, that they opened up a portal to another dimension and creatures were coming through. The headline I always see attached to that is that a creature came through and like stole some researcher's scarf or something like that. That's the one I always see. Okay. What else? This is the kind of news I'm always conflicted about. This is base. Hello, Cardano. CB ADA borrow markets are now live on Base. It's like, there's nothing we can do about it. Am I happy to see something like this on such a centralized platform? Nah. But I mean, there's good things about it. We have to penetrate every part of crypto if we're to be successful. We kind of have to penetrate every part of crypto. Do I love it? No. The next time somebody tells me that they don't have any ADA, but they have CB ADA, am I going to like smile and be so happy for them? Nah. But, here it is, CB ADA. Finally, the last thing we couldn't possibly finish. If there's something about this topic we can talk about, I always like to talk about it. Here we have sandwich attacks getting out of hand on Solana. Once again, we just barely covered this. The other day, but here we are on October 29th. Just for most of you, this will be 2 days ago, October 29th. The numbers became staggering again, in the words of Dave. And I agree, it's crazy. It is staggering. In just the past 24 hours, 864 Sol had been extracted by 3,928 attackers. Did you hear that? 3,928 attackers, impacting over 15,900 victims. So we're talking about almost 16,000 victims across Solana's DeFi ecosystem. More than 15,500 wide sandwich attacks were executed, extracting 864 Sol, currently valued at $168,000 in just a 24-hour period. So, man, the extended robbery forest is not slowing down. It's like not slowing down here. The extended robbery forest is becoming a real thing for sure. Okay, let's get to a few more of these comments. Looks like Bindocam has to go back to work. Okay. Luis Quinones Hernandez. Hey, my mine status is waiting for the next challenge for a few hours now. What should I do? We talked about this a little bit previously in the stream. For me, when I hit refresh, when I refresh that tab, that worked for me. Your mileage may vary. I don't know what will happen. I don't know what setup you're using, but on my setup, that seemed to work okay. Martian was a good movie. I actually read a really funny article today where, according to the article, Ridley Scott is trying to claim that The Martian was a comedy all along, which I thought was pretty funny. And they had a very long analysis about why The Martian could be considered a comedy. Here's some advice. Scroll down to see if it's recording any submissions, and if not, reload and restart. Mission Zambia Stake Pool says, Louise, we get one challenge to solve per hour. Once you've solved your challenges, you have to wait for the hour mark to get the next challenge. Yep, that's actually accurate. That could be. I didn't even consider that. You might just be experiencing the normal, hourly wait. Let me go back and. Okay, Luis Quinones said it was for a couple hours though, so it might not just be the normal hourly wait. It sounds like something is going on there. Okay, Emilio says, I have a physics degree. LHC is harmless. All this question interests me, but I acknowledge the large hadron collider is harmless. Yeah, I mean, the things we're talking about are like crazy conspiracy theories. The portal opening up is a crazy conspiracy theory. We're not even in the realm of science here. We're just talking about sort of the culture, the anthropology of the UAP conspiracy thing. And I don't think anybody here actually believes that a portal opened up and a creature came through and stole somebody's scarf. We're just talking about the crazy stories that pop up in the UAP world. Emilio says, but I acknowledge the impossibility of most of them at a fantasy level. I love entertaining. Yeah, I think that's how we all feel. It's just entertaining to think about these kind of things. And the fact that these stories exist in the UAP space, and a lot of people believe them. A lot of people do believe them. Louise says, the solutions are submitted, but it seems to be stuck. If I reset session or refresh page, will I lose the night tokens already mined? I can't say what's going to happen for you, but for me, if I refreshed the tab, I did not lose my previously submitted solutions. Sammy, Alabama, let's go Cardano to the moon. Let's go. Have you seen this Sean Ryan show has featured discussions about mining helium-3 on the moon, particularly in the context of the episode with guest Lieutenant General retired Stephen Quast? So I know of this discussion. I haven't watched it. Yeah, this is a good question. there's a lot of questions about how much exploration of the moon, how much scientific endeavor has occurred with respect to the moon that hasn't been disclosed. Because we know the governments of the world do a lot of things without feeling like they need to tell the world. They do a lot of things without feeling like they need to tell the world. So I believe that is true for sure. Because I remember, I remember even when I was in college, there were certain things I discovered by reading really obscure articles that didn't become public knowledge. Things that the U.S. government had done that became really big news, like 5-10 years later, and nobody knew about them. I would mention it to people, and people were like, "What are you even talking about?" And then 5 or 10 years later, it became such big news. Everybody was talking about it. So I know the governments of the world do things, and people, the general public doesn't know about it for sure. For sure, this is the case. Does that apply to the moon as well? Maybe. I don't know. I've never been there, so I don't know. Yep. One more vote for refresh the page. Earth, 4.5 billion years. Thank you. Thank you, Emilio. That is my understanding as well. This is really, it's for anybody who's studied hard sciences, it's going to sound wild, but there are a lot of people um, who hate this discussion for religious reasons. I am not one of them. I am not one of them. I'm definitely in the believing in billions category. Um, oh, Louise got it. Nice. Okay, got it. Good. Elon is an alien, according to Men in Black. Oh, did he actually show up in did he actually have a cameo in Men in Black? It's been so long, I can't remember now. I heard a starship might land on the moon. Yeah, I think today I saw that there was a starship. I saw a post about Starship being a special version of Starship just for moon landings. Yep. Y-Files did a good episode on the Admiral Byrd story. I think they might have even covered what I referenced, which was the genesis of the story being like some relative of Admiral Byrd or somebody who had bought his journals from some relative, like wanting to sell the journals to make some money or something. If Trump can launch a coin and make millions, so can we. Apparently he did it. So yeah, he did it. So apparently, so we got to penetrate it all. This is Afro in the Wind. This is an attitude I definitely had when I was younger. when I was younger, I uh, definitely embraced that in other areas of my life, and definitely in crypto. I think it still applies. Definitely still applies in crypto. What do you think about the centralized focused push for Bitcoin over crypto, the division? So this to me is so ridiculous. Like when I saw that Bitcoiners, some time ago, this is some time ago, when I saw that they didn't want us to refer to them as crypto anymore, I thought it was so hilarious because, um, you know, I mean, going back to when I first got into crypto, it's like you didn't have any of that. It's like, Litecoin came along and all of a sudden we had altcoins, right? And that phrase was around altcoins. But the idea that Bitcoin wouldn't be considered crypto was ridiculous. It's like read the white paper, actually read the white paper, and then tell me that Bitcoin isn't crypto. Um, so that's something that was kind of invented to differentiate itself from the rest of the coins. And it worked because institutional money flooded into Bitcoin. And you actually, there was a long period, it's still going on now, really, where you heard people come from outside of crypto and say, I'm not interested in crypto. I'm only interested in Bitcoin. I'm interested in Bitcoin, but not crypto. And I think a lot of us are like, Bitcoin has always been crypto. It was just the first crypto. S. Walker, good work. 72 night. Very good. Okay, if I recall correctly, Earth has had life for 4 billion years. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay, you got into it. I was about to say, yeah, you get into when you say Earth has had life for 4 billion years, you know. You get into, are we talking about the slurry of raw ingredients that are necessary to produce life? You know, at what point do we think there was life after the formation of Earth? You know, how, you know, it's like it's hard. It's hard to think about when we're calling it life, because you've got this jump from the raw ingredients of life to life. And there's actually some really good documentaries that attempt to explain how this process might have occurred, and various theories on at what point in that process we say there was life, and there's different opinions on that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, this little rock we're all living on, that's flying through space, going around the sun. It's been around for a long time. How are they getting their sol extracted? Is it these are this is MEV. These are sandwich attacks. So is it the kind of thing that would be impossible on Cardano? Why isn't that pushing use of Cardano? It's harder on Cardano. So okay, so you'll see people say that it's impossible on Cardano, but um it was it became possible when we had batchers and sequencers doing this for DeFi platforms. That became apparent during the early days of um, dexes on Cardano. So not the order book dexes like the original. I won't even say that. I'll just say in the early days of dexes in Cardano, it became apparent that batchers could batch in a way so they could do minor extractable value attacks. They could do sandwich attacks. So basically what you do is, if you've got a mempool, so the reason why it's harder on Cardano is because we have local mempools. We don't have a universal mempool. So if you've got a universal mempool though, and you're a miner or validator, you can go in there and say, oh, hey, there's a transaction that is going to push the price of this asset, you know, some coin, up or down. That transaction is going to push the price up or down. So what I'm going to do is, let's say it's going to push the price up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my own transaction in front of it that is itself going to push the price up a tiny bit. And then I'll put this other person's transaction that I'm pulling out of the mempool. I'm going to put that transaction second. I'm going to put my transaction first, then their transaction second. So my transaction will push up the value a tiny bit, which kind of screws the person who comes that I'm putting second, because they're going to have to pay more. But then their transaction is going to push it even higher. And then I'm going to put a third transaction that will also be mine on the other side, and I'm going to sell. So it's like they're going to buy higher, and then I'm going to immediately sell, which is going to push the price lower. So this poor person is going to pay more, and then the asset they just bought is going to take a hit. It's going to take a dip because I'm going to sell on the other side. So that's very simplistic way of describing what's sandwich attacks and how you can do like a basic MEV. So they tried to call it maximal extractable value. That's a euphemism. In the early days, we just called it minor extractable value. And I consider it to be kind of like it. To me, it feels like fraud. To me, it feels like a fraud. So I don't think regulators are gonna be cool with that. I personally choose crypto and freedom of choice over Bitcoin. Me too. I choose freedom as well. Good job, S. Walker. Agreed. Yeah, S. Walker, do you want to tell us how you made the 72 night? Let us know. Probably just 72 night. Oh, 72 night. Okay. No, that's good. You don't have to tell us. Actually, I already know. I already know how you did it. Good job. Making every trick-or-treater download Tokyo Pay and giving them a Pop-Tart. There you go. I suggest everyone not buy into the Bitcoin cult. Yeah, there are a lot of drawbacks to Bitcoin for sure. Centralization of miners is a big one. Dave is a great guy. Yeah, love the posts. Michael Saylor and BlackRock are like Satan. They're like Satan. Wow. I don't know about. I've encountered human beings that, you know, I've never met Michael Saylor or Larry Fink, But I've definitely encountered some human beings who seem more satanic than those two at least appear when I see them in interviews. So, I don't know if I'd go as far as Satan, but I think I get where you're coming from. Where are you getting the other comments from? Not this YouTube chat. So, there are comments coming to me in the streaming software I'm using. So I'm getting them in the streaming software. So that means it might be coming from multiple places. So maybe not the live chat. They might be comments from underneath as well. Cardano's technology will survive. Yeah, the beautiful thing, even if I did a whole episode back in the day about what happens if Charles gets hit by a bus. And yep, the technology will survive. Improbability drive. Improbability drive. Tell me what you mean by that. I'm technically agnostic, but I lean atheist. It's all random probability that made us. It's wild, but only because we are seeing that a possibility from the inside. Like it's impossible, but here. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So there have been a lot of podcasts that went much deeper on this. Like I think there have been whole podcasts, and I believe I've seen documentaries that sort of take you step by step. Like it's like the earth gets an atmosphere and there's water and there's these other ingredients that form this primordial soup, and then here's how you jump from that to single-celled organ. You have a sun, here's how you jump from that to single-celled organisms, then multi-celled, and then eventually humans evolve. So a lot of randomness, though. I mean, definitely if you think about Darwinian evolution, it's like random genetic aberrations, are this driver forward. So random probability seems to be a very big ingredient in all things in our reality. Okay. Flying ham bone. Conversations about the primordial soup generating amino acids in life makes me very excited. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. Grok, the technical foundation, governance model, and ecosystem momentum position Cardano was one of the most sustainable layer ones. I would not be here if I thought there was a more sustainable layer one or a better. I won't just say sustainable, but I'll say better if I thought there was a better one. Is there a chance BTC lives on a chain like Cardano and the BTC network dies? Keep the gold, close the mine. Ada Eclipse, you make this is a very important idea, I think. It's like this is something that Bitcoiners have talked about for a long time. So you've got transaction fees in Bitcoin, which are very high. But the problem is, will miners still want to validate blocks once the block rewards go away? Or does the Bitcoin chain die and it just continues to live on another chain? Because once the block rewards die, you're just looking at rewards based on transaction fees. And it's like transaction fees are very high on the Bitcoin blockchain, but will the economics still work once the rewards go away, or will you have many, many fewer miners willing to mine? And the security of the chain is related to the hash rate because it's subject to 51% attacks. So if the hash rate goes down, those attacks become much easier. So does the network just die? Do we have some kind of a different derivative form of BTC that lives on another network? I think these are all things we got to think about as crypto. This is one of the scariest things about Bitcoin when I realized that transaction fees weren't going up fast enough. Like, and I don't even mean like it wasn't that I wanted Bitcoin to be more expensive. It's that I wanted more use, more adoption. And this was kind of a big part of the block size civil war that I talk about frequently on this channel. Like one of the reasons I favored the big blockers was because I wanted people to be buying coffee with Bitcoin. I wanted it to be that kind of thing. And instead, we got this thing that, in my opinion, I don't know if it works once the block rewards run out. So salute to all ADA nationalists. Yep. That's right. ADA nationalist. Cardano Universe says Ada Globalist also. If you mine for 24 hours and zero mine, chances are you're having lower CPU specs based experience. I have 3 PCs running. 2 of them got me 8 to 5 each. The third 0 after 24 hours. Yeah, I pulled one out that was quite old and it was working. Abdulaziz. Yeah, it could be a CPU problem. Although my newer laptop actually it had that pausing problem where it just kind of the interface just kind of like stopped and I had to restart it, or it had the thing where I had to refresh it. So it seems like it could be any of these. But you make a good point. Yeah, it could be if the CPU specs are low enough, that could be the problem. Yeah. Um, I don't know. I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about those two. Oh, okay. I've never read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or seen any of the adaptations. Oh, Flying Hambone, thank you. $2 super chat. Live long and prosper. Thank you. Appreciate it. That is my second. That is my second super chat ever. I appreciate that. Very much. Thank you. Appreciate it. What is your take on gold dropping and crypto prices dropping while stocks go up, while Fed drops rate? I don't really have. It's so I keep trying to tell everybody, um, these markets, it's like they're wild beasts living in a zoo, and it's like the zookeepers who watch these beasts every single day, they have some guesses, they have some guesses like, hey, it's Halloween. We're gonna throw pumpkins into the zoo. This is something they do. This is something they do in places where Halloween is celebrated. If you're not in a place where there's Halloween, this actually happens at zoos. They'll put a pumpkin in with like the polar bears. And it's ridiculous because polar bears don't live anywhere near pumpkins. But they do it. So they throw a pumpkin in there, and it's sort of like the zookeepers, they might, you might be trying to like predict what is the polar bear going to do. And the zookeeper might be like, I know this polar bear well. His name is, this. This is Tom the polar bear. I know him well. He is, you know, going to go directly to the pumpkin, right? He only gets the pumpkin once a year. Last year he went directly to the pumpkin. That's what he's going to do again. And then, the people are like, "Oh, the zookeeper definitely knows." And then you watch what happens, and the damn polar bear jumps in the water. This is how the markets are. It's like they're so complicated, and people act on their beliefs in markets. People act on the things they believe are going to happen, their guesses. And so then those guesses change the market, and then other people formulate guesses based on the change that just occurred in the market, and it's all happening so fast and so simultaneously. It is like the polar bear. Like the wind might change and he might smell something and think there's something more interesting than the pumpkin in the water. So he might just go jump in the water. It might be that the zookeeper is right 9 times out of 10 he goes to the pumpkin, but if the wind changes and he smells some kid's hot dog that he bought at the concession stand, the polar bear might get confused and think there's like a hot dog in the water and go jump in the water. These are like the markets. So I don't think you should think about the markets as something that, can be predicted. Even forensically, looking backwards, hindsight is 2020, but even looking backwards, confusing things happen and everybody always comes up with some narrative. This is exactly why this happened. But actually, I mean, we're talking about huge numbers of people all making bets on what's going to happen, and their bets affect each other. And then you've got these large centralized institutions like the Fed doing things that are going to affect everybody's bets. And then, they're like adjusting what they're going to do on December 10th based on how people react to what they did yesterday. It's all some craziness. So what is my take on gold dropping and crypto prices dropping while stocks go up while Fed drops rates? The one thing I will say is that since we went crazy in 2008-ish, and we were like, to hell with the Austrian economics as a world, as a rock hurtling through space, all the central banks were like, to hell with Austrian economics. We'll just print money like crazy. Since we started doing that, liquidity seems to be the name of the game. And, as we covered last night, liquidity has just been going down for the last couple of years. We found out quantitative tightening is supposed to end on December 1. That's helpful, but we're not to December 1 yet. So risk assets going down, even though Fed dropped the rate. I think a big part of that was Powell coming back again and again. The reporters were asking all the wrong questions. Like they're basically begging him, like, hey, Powell, could you just throw more shade on the idea that you guys are going to cut again on December 10th? And he's like, oh, thank you for asking. Let me go ahead and do that. And then another reporter come by and be like, hey, could you throw double shade on that idea? And he's like, oh, thank you. I'm totally happy to throw double shade on the idea that we're going to cut on December 10th, which the entire market is already priced in, and CME FedWatch says is a like 98% chance or whatever it was. Powell was more than happy to do that. Let's face it, he and Trump hate each other, so I think he's more than happy to to throw shade on that. And what he said was actually truthful. It was that it's not a foregone conclusion. He said it several times. It's not a foregone conclusion that we cut rates, which is always true. They don't make the decision until the FOMC meeting, and any number of things could happen in between now and then that cause them not to cut. Like inflation going crazy somehow. I mean, they have two mandates. Make unemployment low. Make inflation 2%. Maximize employment and make inflation 2%. Those are their only two jobs. So, there's a lot of things that could happen that could, make the job market good in between now and then, or make inflation go out of control, that could cause them to not cut. So he said it was a truism what he said. So that didn't help. But I think really we're just in this, like, we're in a QT environment. We've been in a QT environment for the last couple of years. So risk assets dropping, yeah, because they need liquidity that we don't have yet. QT doesn't even end. Like the opposite of liquidity increasing doesn't even end until December 1st. So I think that's what's going on. But also it's like the polar bear. BTC could keep on living on ADA as CNT store of value, most likely UTXO, maybe on even more blockchains. Yeah, it's one of our greatest advantages that we are EUTXO, just like Bitcoin is UTXO. Okay. I think BTC is going to be a payment system like SWIFT for central banks, nation states, big corporations, etc., for ridiculously large transaction settlement. I can't even. Yeah, it's a good use case for Bitcoin. Except that Caitlin Long, who is kind of an expert on, she's kind of like a foremost expert in thinking about this transition where banks try to embrace crypto. She points out some things required by the Basel regimes. Basel, it's been too long. I've actually covered on this channel, but there's some things that are required of banks currently that don't match up with the real-time trading of the settlement times required of banks. The very slow settlement times they kind of have to stick to make it very hard for them to deal with this real-time, fast-moving asset like Bitcoin. So she has some arguments that the way banks are run currently makes them very ill-suited to deal with Bitcoin. And she thinks it's going to result in some liquidity problems for a lot of banks down the road. But we'll see if that pans out. But there are some, I agree with you, but there are some persuasive counter arguments about how well that's going to work out. I think they'll do it. I think they're going to do it for sure. But Caitlin Long has some pretty persuasive arguments that they're gonna have some trouble. Shout out Tom. Which Tom? Which Tom are you talking about? Tom DeLong on the alien stuff? Devalue, distribute, restrict, repeat. Yeah, it's kind of amazing how we're able to. I think you're talking about how we debase the currency, and the bigger central banks basically export the inflation effects of that debasement to everybody in the world. I mean, it's part of why it's so valuable for I mean, it's part of why both sort of the Bank of China and the United States are, racing to use their own currencies, and get everybody in the world to use their currencies. It's because if everybody's using your currency, right? If you can get everybody in the world to use stable coins that are all pegged to USD, then you can keep doing your debasement thing and you can export that inflation to everybody in the world. So that's one of the benefits of being the world reserve currency. So that's true. Ever since the shutdown, crypto volatility, yep. And we like the volatility of the upside, but not so much the volatility like we got today. Stagflation, the nightmare. Omar, you are correct. You're correct that is stagflation hamstrings the FOMC, the Fed. Powell talked about that yesterday. He talked about this extensively, how whenever those two things are in conflict, when they're worried about unemployment and they're trying to reduce inflation, you're going to have strong, he literally said, strong opinions on both sides. And I mean, they only have so many voting members in the FOMC, but they have like 17 participants. So there's a bunch of people in the room throwing their opinion in. Only so many of them actually have votes, but all those voices get heard. And he straight up said there were strong opinions on both sides. So yeah, stagnation of the economy plus inflation is not good. Not good. Gas prices down, but inflation up 0.1%. BTC miners won't stop mining, but they will be taken over by governments for national security. Ooh, it's a bad outcome for Bitcoin for sure. Yeah, Crunchy Cat is done. I don't blame you, Crunchy Cat. It's kind of, especially when you look at, especially if you have if you're looking at an allocation that you got during phase one that was bigger, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. AOS, what would make you give up on Cardano? What would make me give up on Cardano if they got rid of the hard cap and started doing crazy stuff like that? Like they said, we're not gonna have a hard cap anymore. We're gonna increase to 100 billion from 45. That would make me give up, because if they, it's like if they start making changes like that, or if they were like, probably the worst sign would be if they did that. They're like, we're not going to have a hard cap anymore, and we're going to institutionalize burns, burning Cardano. It's like stupid stuff like that would probably make me give up on Cardano. If everybody voted to give a ridiculous amount of money to, somebody who didn't need it, some short-term trend, if everybody voted to give somebody money, a huge amount of money, that could, and I mean a huge amount, that was like not infrastructure, but just like embracing the latest trend, like that would make me give up if I saw, I mean, and I mean like a large amount of money in the aggregate, like if Cardano just started like not building out long-term infrastructure and just kept giving money to people to embrace the latest trend. Like if it was just this thing where everybody had their hand in the cookie jar for stupid stuff and all the DReps were voting for it, that would do it. ADA is irresistibly cheap. I am out free cash to get some more. Should I visit the dark and deep place more often given the opportunity? I kind of don't expect it to fall below $1 after the run. Yeah, Emilio, I agree. When I saw some of those prices today, I was sort of like, man, sometimes I wish I had the paychecks from the fiat mines, even though I'm super glad to be out of the fiat mines. I know what you're saying. Oh, Tom the polar bear, who chose freedom over the pumpkin. Oh, Tom the polar bear, of course. How could I forget so soon? I've been broke for, okay. Bindo Cam says, I've been broke for a really long time because I keep throwing it at ADA. Somehow I'm still in the red. Yeah, I've definitely DCA'd so hard into ADA. My 2 years in the fiat mines were all about DCAing into ADA. So I actually accumulated, for me, from my perspective, a lot of ADA. Some very, very rich ADA holders would disagree it's a lot, but for me, it was a lot. And yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to look at your at all the it's a different feeling looking at your fiat account and looking at your ADA account for sure. One more Trump appointee, and they will have the votes. They will have the votes to cut. This is very interesting. So yeah, Powell is out in May. Powell's out in May. So that's going to be very interesting. He is definitely going to put somebody in there who's going to be all about liquidity. There is no question. He's going to throw somebody in Powell's spot who is all about liquidity. I know you're saying any appointee on the FOMC, but it's going to be interesting when the chair is somebody who only cares about liquidity. Don't you mean if we did that? If you're talking about what I was talking about before, yes, if we did those things. After Bitcoin halving last April 2024, it is said about 365 to 550 days, a huge pump up for altcoins the next 3 months. I'm waiting happily. Do others believe this also? I definitely did the same thing. Sammy, I did the same thing as everybody else. I sort of had a timeline in my head, and I was like projecting prices on those dates, something I'd never talked about on this channel because I didn't want to, I didn't want to lead anybody else in that direction. But definitely 2025 has been super weird. 2025 has been super weird. So are things going to extend into 2026? If so, how far past January 1, 2026? Is 2026 somehow going to be weird too? And it's not 2026, it becomes 2027. I don't even know at this point. This has been such a weird year 4 of the 4-year cycle that I don't even know, but other people can answer that too. Monica, how's it going? Crunchy Cat says, can you give a shout out to my wife, Monica? She likes your voice, and we're traveling 4 hours today by car, so it'll be nice if she randomly hears this when I later repeat it. Monica, Crunchy Cat only talks about you. He only talks about you on this channel. I can't even believe he's been talking about Cardano today. He normally only talks about you, and it's all glowing. It's all just glowing, wonderful things about you, Monica, just so you know. If aliens were to come to Earth, they would definitely choose ADA as their Earth currency. Now we're talking flying handball, and that's the kind of alien talk I like to hear. I hate when I buy ADA and BTC, the price is like 60 cents, but they charge me a fee, then charge me like 3 cents per ADA. Me too, man. I'm with you. I'm with you on that 100%. Do not you? Midnight mining is so easy. I'm impressed. Mining with an empty wallet. It's the first. Good point. Good point. It is easy. It's free and easy, and beggars can't be choosers. So I felt bad even talking about how the returns are, less than some people hoped today, because it's like, it's free. How can you complain? Okay, Truck Dono, what do you want me to say to your wife? What do you want me to say to your wife? Many people are talking about an extended cycle because of institutional adoption. Yeah, everything is so screwed up. This year 4 has been so screwed up. I don't know where we're going. Mrs. Truckdono. Oh, you want me to whisper it? Mrs. Truckdono, let's go to bed. Good night. How was that? How was that? You said to whisper it earlier, so I whispered it. Next challenge in 7 minutes. But who's keeping track? Yeah, I think it's maybe this is a good point. So we've been on for almost 2 hours. Maybe this is a good time to let everybody go. Of course, anytime. Of course. Thank you for being here. Anytime. AOSMR. Yeah, but maybe we'll get out of here so that people can go check and make sure their miners are not freezing, make sure their miners are doing the thing. Like always, we will not, probably, unless something comes up, we probably won't do anything. There probably won't be a stream tomorrow night or the night after for you to listen to on the following days. So probably Sunday night, the stream will be back like normal, unless something comes up. But I hope everybody survived this week. I hope you're looking forward to a great weekend. If you're in a geography that celebrates Halloween, I hope you have a great Halloween, and I will talk to you soon.